Artie,
how was it going?
it's going good. You just flaked out for a second, audio-wise.
Oh, did I? That should be good.
You went like, how's it going?
Oh, well, it happens. That's okay. I need to probably align the microphone. Hold on. I'll just sit like this the whole night, okay? How about that?
You're satisfying my my homosexual tendencies in from the year there with that with the husky voice.
Making it weird since 2007.
So I guess we're waiting for. Weren't we supposed to do this at your house?
We were, but I have stuff going on, so we were not able to. I was not able to put that together in before half an hour ago. So Dan has courteously taken care of everything, and we're at his place. So hopefully we'll be back on regular schedule as soon as possible.
My house is your house.
I appreciate it. So
we're supposed to have Uwe popping in. I just gave him a call, so he's going to be a German late.
he's busy making the schnitzel.
Hold on. German late. That's not a. You can't say that. These guys are never late.
I don't know about that.
They weren't late in 39.
They were late on June 22nd, 1941. So there's that.
So today we're talking about research and design, and I think we got the best person to talk about that. Because
one of the things I think we ought to discuss actually is the old SPI designer developer model that used to be kind of the standard for war games, and I think publishers have kind of gotten away from that, where there was at least on paper there was a robust developer waiting in the wings to take the design and run with it and polish it to a high sheen. Maybe not polish it to a high sheen, but get rid of the dumb stuff and emphasize the better ideas in the design.
So what does that create? Does that create a grognard reading that and that research and playing the SPI type games and not the Avalon Hill?
Well, it's probably is. I mean, I think Avalon Hill might have been better at it. I associate that with SPI more than Avalon Hill, but I think Avalon Hill might have been better at it than SPI. And certainly it was more an ideal than a fact in terms of how the things turn out. The SPI did plenty of games that came out a little bit half baked, but they had a lot of things going on. They had a very aggressive publication schedule, due in part but not exclusively to the magazine. Of course, magazines actually. I mean, it was just there were at the end. Remember, there were two magazines, each of which had a game in them. So
you're talking just SPI? You're just talking?
Yeah, I mean they had S&T, of course, but they also had Ares magazine, which had a new sci-fi game. And I think they were both bi-monthly. I want to say that sounds right. I could be wrong about that. I know S&T has fluctuated between different publication schedules over the years. I think they're still bi-monthly now, but I'm not sure if that also applies to the other Decision magazines. So, and when the TSR owned S&T, you were lucky to get magazines. So,
what's going on with TSR, man?
Nothing. They abandoned it again, and they're going to do business as Wonderfied or some such thing now because they have muddied the water so bad.
Matt here is saying downfall of a lot of game and is lacking. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So yes, I mean that's true, but that's part of development, right? I think the problem is, and this applies to Avalon Hill, is that there's really no publisher now that has in-house developers unless the owner's doing it, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the GMT's games, there's a designer and there's a developer, and sometimes it's something that gets coordinated centrally by Gene and whoever else is making leadership decisions over there. But a lot of time it's just whoever the designer wants to say, yeah, here's the developer, right?
Yeah.
So almost that's the majority of publication situations now is that type of thing, and that makes it sometimes challenging. But I think playtesting falls under that, right? One group, and I didn't say publisher on purpose, that I think does get it right is the gamers. Which still kind of operates as a somewhat independent entity within MMP, right? They kind of runs itself, right? And they just say, "Hey, MMP, ready to go with this. Go push the button. Their stuff gets robustly play tested. Third Winter, which just came out, of course, has been in play test for 10 years, something like that. I mean, they have play tested the pants off of that thing. So, and some people
go ahead.
Some people say, "Oh, you can't play." Lou Pulsifer said this, not that. "Oh, you can't play just monster games." Well, it's hard, but you can, because it's happened, right? And the Third Winter is an example of people. I personally am aware of a dozen games of that full campaign that have gotten played over the last 6 or 7 years. I didn't participate. I participated in like 2 of those, but it's been play tested, so it is possible to do it. It is challenging, right? You need the right people to do it. Helps if they're retired and have basements and no cats. So, or alternatively, sometimes for certain sizes of games, you could run big play tests at big conventions. Typically, that's Consum World, but probably also happens at WBC. And I can tell you it happens at Winterfest as well, actually.
Is there going to be a Winterfest this year?
It was canceled for 2021. There was one in 2020, but it happens in February, right? So as far as I'm aware, we're on for February, I think.
Man, if I wanted to drive down, that's the worst possible time to drive down, because I'd have to drive through the Appalachians.
Not unless, or Detroit. So, I mean, it's up to you. I'd probably rather drive through the mountains than Detroit.
Yeah, but not during winter, man. That's
just me. Oh, well, that's actually true. Well, so you never know. I mean, I've been going for about 5 years. I suspect that Third Winter has had 50 or more plays of the campaign, though. So Lou can say whatever he wants, but he's wrong on that. So, I think that's a great ideal to strive for, is 50 or more plays. I think that's a good number. And it is, I'm not going to say it's not way more challenging to do that with some format monster thing than it is, Britannia. Certainly it's much more challenging to play test a big monster game. But again, it was also in development it was in play testing for 10 years. So, they took their time with it. They did what they needed to do, and they made it work. So it is possible to do it. There are more counterexamples of underbaked monster games, for the record. So I'm not trying to say that's true.
Who designed Third Winter?
Anthony Burkett.
I've never heard of him.
I'm not sure Tony has any other credits, actually, but Tony's got at least 4 things in the pipeline at the Gamers. So we were talking
about Bruno Sinigalio and Time for Trumpets. Now, you know what?
That's a great example, actually. That's been in development. That's been getting play tested for years as well. I have total faith in the play testing of that thing.
I mean, it's in essence, that thing has been play tested for what, 30 years?
I don't know about 30.
Well,
but
no, I'm talking about like Bitter Woods and the Battle of the Bulge.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to credit it with Bitter Woods' play testing, because it's a different game. I mean, it's got a lot that Bitter Woods doesn't have. It's got quite a bit more detail. And it's a different scale, right? Sometimes you change the scale and you change nothing else and the thing falls apart. I could think of counter examples where you change the scale and it starts working, right? So that's a thing, right? If you change the scale, okay, so possibly the dumbest idea in the history of wargaming: Civil War, Advanced Squad Leader. Dumbest idea in history. The squad was not a thing in the U.S. Civil War, right? No. So right there, you have a scale. Just because of the scale, it's flatly not going to work. Or be interesting, or I mean, what do you fight out, right? You fight out like these 6 guys in some kind of skirmish, or you're not going to fight out even a moderately sized battle at that scale. So scale is really important. Yeah, Mike, that's what I recalled. I wasn't sure if anything else has popped up.
Now, how does it makes me think of
stay tuned for interview sometime in November, by the way. With Tony Burkett.
Okay.
So now, that's in the planning stages.
Now, this is his only design. I mean, it makes me think of Mike Denson, Last 100 Yards, where that's his only design, but he's been playing war games for all his life. He's a history aficionado, but he developed his own game. I'm wondering who developed Anthony, who developed the Third Winter? How many developers in the Third Winter, I would say?
So that's a little bit complicated because the way the gamers operate is they appoint the series honcho. Okay, so that series honcho, I believe, now I could be wrong, it could have been somebody else, but I was made aware of Third Winter when John Kisner was the OCS series honcho.
How long ago? How long ago?
6 or 7 years ago, something like that. But John's decided it was time to move on, stepped down. He's still involved, but he's not the honcho anymore. And Curtis Baer took over a couple, 2-3 years ago now. And then Chip Saltzman is kind of like this under developer. And he was the developer on Third Winter that's credited. And I think he's the only credited person. I think he may have been doing developer duties the entire time.
Bloody hell, because that's a job and a half, man.
Oh, well, it really is, actually. I had to bow out of some of the playtesting that's going on right now because I got a job.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with the retired guys that can say, yeah, sure, I'll sign up for a 4-hour Vassal playtest at 11 a.m. on a Monday. Yeah. That works great for me.
Yeah. That's a great voice you got there, man.
It's not even my old man voice. These sons of bitches.
And you know what, going back to Mike Denson, of which people I interviewed, and go check it out. And you know what? I was actually a little bit intimidated because this man, he looks like the military type, and he's straight ahead. It's yes, no, and you better ask the proper question because I'm going to come down on you and help you, God. But he wasn't like that, thankfully. And he said he presented the first 100 yards the first time he showed Dean Essig the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't seen a TCS from MMP in a long time. Am I right?
They released one last year, Ariete, which is Italians in North Africa.
What do I know?
But it was a small game. So it was on the chart. So a couple years ago, the MMP announced that they were basically shuttering several of the Gamers series, which included the Civil War Brigade series, the Regimental Sub-series, which kind of had phased itself out. And the Napoleonic Brigade series were all shuttered, and the one left standing was TCS, and they said, "Hey, we're going to do a small Ziploc game so we can gauge and see, because it's cheaper to produce because the most expensive thing in there is the box, right?" So to see if there's still interest, and Ariete got put in there and it made its number and it got released and it seems to be well liked by the TCS folks. I have a couple TCS games. I have never actually played TCS. So looks neat. I'd like to try it someday.
Artie, I have a great question by Nathaniel Robinson, but we also have Uva. So I'm just going to bring Uva on, but please answer this question.
Okay.
Okay. And here is Uva with a sucky camera.
Oh my goodness. There he is.
Hold on, Uva. We just want to answer this question.
Yeah, so Mike might have been talking about that. I don't know, but I'm going to guess and say that he's going to either limit it to certain very small engagements, or he's going to change the scale so it's not squads anymore, which would be fine, right? That's not like the functional battlefield unit in the Civil War. Squads were not a thing. They were, maybe, but they weren't. You didn't like give your orders. It's not an interesting scale for Civil War. Let me put it that way.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have Uva Eichert. Guten Abend, Uva.
Tachchen, wie geht's?
Ja, gut. So, Uva, I hope you're ready for some serious questions, man. We're going to tear you apart.
Go for it.
Okay. Artie, if I can.
Oh, go. By all means. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, what this whole thing is for the next 45 minutes, Uva, is research and design. And I also have sub-questions, like you being the handsome German that you are. I mean, you are totally handsome.
Tall.
And now, Uwe, research and design. I know you do a lot of research, a lot of research, and you have your genius son, a lot of research.
And birds.
Yeah, but it's because I'm getting ahead of myself now. All that research, all of it, is put into a single game, or is this Rolodexed in back of your head? And here's another question, Uwe. Since you research and you are the grognard that you are, why, and excuse me if, with all due respect, why have you not done or will not do a serious Hex Encounter grognard game with all that info you have?
Well, we are doing games like that. I mean, our Conflict of Heroes series is from a tactical standpoint of how units work, and that's why we've put so much time to France 1940, because trying to simulate like a Samoa type of tank, which was so superior to anything that the Germans had from a standpoint on paper, with the guns it had, the armor, trying to then model all its serious discrepancies of command issues, total lack of sight and situational awareness for the commander, the lack of so many type of basic communication devices. So the difficult part of putting all this research is not how did something look on paper, but how was it used at that time in the field, and how was it in comparison to the opponents, not only from the standpoint of the combat capability of the unit itself, but also the morale issues and communication issues that it imparted upon the participants. So we do a lot of studying, and then of course trying to put it into a model that is not like the old school games of charts, and if I hit, then where did I hit, and what impact did it do? And that is not the type of game that we want to do, because that is for the armchair type of statistician who likes taking time instead of a very quick, with our Conflict of Heroes, we push that you play it with a chess clock timer.
Now, Uwe, excuse me. Now, is this a marketing decision, or is this really, Uwe, I want to gamify this, I want to make this fun?
Well, this is a lot of it's also from our feedback from our military partners and contacts and everything that they're trying to impart upon. Not only are we looking for the gamers market, but also from a standpoint of training a lot of the people who are now joining the military, and their entire life has just been playing first-person heuristic type of shooters. I think the entire the gaming market, the wargaming market, I think is growing like crazy.
Yeah.
It's, how many games we sell nowadays compared to the old days is phenomenal. So, and also the way people think. I mean, I used to love ASL. I was a ASL fanatic in college. You wouldn't find me dead going through this thick rule book, because it's so unrealistic. The more realistic the old games were in the old days, the less realistic they are, because you as a commander don't give a shit how many hand grenades, Sergeant Bühlemann or something has. You don't care. You're caring about what is the situation, what are my logistics, what is the situation, what are my targets, my objective, what are my limitations put upon me and my men, things like that. What are the opponents doing? Siggy, let my voice here. So from that standpoint, it is not that it's something that I think not only is what the direction the market is, but it's also what I like to play, and it's my vision of putting a game together. A lot of the people that we've talked to, going back from where it really matters, from a military standpoint, even when they're doing with colonels and 1, 2, 3-star generals, they're doing type of training games and everything. Well, what are they doing? The games are so complicated and old school often that these guys, they're not being pushed to look at the critical factors and really analyzing the situation and working your way through the way a really good gamer or critical thinker does. They're just making heuristic decisions saying, I want to do that. How do I do it? And they're losing a lot of that analyzing the situation, critically looking at it from several viewpoints, and then also looking at what are my what's curtailing me to fulfill this type of objective, or if I would want to do that, what are the benefits and drawbacks of making a decision like this? So it is, I think, very, very critical in many situations, not only in business, military, any type of situation, where you look at this, even in private in life. And nowadays, this is going further and further away because everything you're doing is short little snippets of information, and after that you get bored, and making quick heuristic decisions, meaning heuristic that is your gut feel, what has your brain decided were the three most successful past reactions to the situation. I'm just going to jump into that. Even if this one's slightly different, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make it look the same. So that's why we're trying to make the game and the rules and everything very simple. And if you look, even our Conflict of Heroes, we're in the 3rd edition. And every time we come up with new editions, very different. And if you look what I put out 3-4 weeks ago in our newest version of the rules, I think we just put them up like 2 weeks ago, our version 65 of Awakening the Bear. Again, we really looked at the advanced movement that tanks and vehicles take, and we again changed it and modified a little to take into account even more and more of this. Yeah, they went faster, but did they go faster in this situation?
No.
It makes no sense on paper. Why would they slow down? Why would they do this? Because you've got a crew that's very nervous going past this clump of woods. Is there a puck in there? Is there a bazooka team in there? Is there what have you? So that's why I don't like sitting there and having reams of paper and everything. I want to make it as simple as possible. That's why what we did with Agents of Mayhem, which was based on one of our military games, and we took it even further and we got rid of numbers, because a lot of people don't even feel comfortable with numbers nowadays. You know, if I would ask Dan, if I would ask you, and I'm not looking for an answer, but if I ask, what's 3 times 17? A lot of the younger people, they cannot look at 3 times 17 and come up with the answer. They weren't taught to go, well, let me break it down. 3 times 10 is 30, and 3 times 7 is 21, 51. And this type of really taking whatever information you have and trying to get the information with little tidbits, I think it's much more important when you're playing a war game, trying to do it that way. So, long answer to a very short question. It's number one, I think, what is needed to really enjoy from the military commanders in historical settings. And then number two, it is what I prefer to play. And number three, it's, I think, what the market right now is requiring. The younger people in our age group for our war games is going down. It used to be, 35 to 55 to 58, and now it's getting down 30 to 50. I mean, we're seeing a creep down in age. So I think it's very important.
Now, does scale matter in your research and gamifying?
Well, of course it does. I mean, like in a Conflict of Heroes, which is a platoon company level, and now our new COMOCs that we're working with the U.S. Marine Corps Association with their tactical decision-making game series, where they wanted more of a battalion level type of stress and viewpoint. I do not think, there's been a big stress lately saying, in Afghanistan, everything's coming down to the battalion type of level, and now we have to reorient ourselves with Russia and China to core level and everything. I don't think it's ever going to get go that way. I think we're going to go much more into type of gray engagements, gray area engagements. It's going to be much more small. It's going to continue, I think, with the small unit, battalion-sized engagements and movements. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to a World War II situation like a lot of people are worried about. We have to be prepared for it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
So does this mean that we can expect a near future hypothetical thing from you in the future?
Actually, what people want from us is looking back at more modern type of engagements and what's happening. So right now I'm doing a lot of studying, and I've been very lucky to get some Russians involved from Mujahideen tactics against the Russians in the 80s, and then how these tactics changed with the modern Taliban against American units from the 80s to present times. Again, these are smaller units, but we're looking now at battalion size. But my main focus right now, my passion, is in the solo campaign series that we're developing, which is like nothing out there. I want players to feel like they're part of a story, like a book they're reading or a movie that they're directing. So our solo campaigns and everything are going to go in a very, very, very different direction. And it's taking a lot of time, a lot of effort. And we're doing a lot of, I'm taking computer classes and courses all fall at University of Michigan to be able to develop further the type of interrelational, three-dimensional decision-making trees, and also how they ripple forward into changing the future of not only your area of the battlefield and what happened, but also how it's influenced from outside areas that aren't under your control. So from that standpoint, it's slowed down. You've seen, in the last 2 years, we put out very little, mainly because we were working so hard on Stellaris, which is a 3D space combat game. And then we've been working on a lot of other games that we're just not really advertising yet, because I've learned, like my Gettysburg game, which I got to get done. It just, creates more online chatter that brings about embarrassment on my side.
So, Uwe, all this research, and this is just you, the classes that you're taking, the gas that you're spending to go to this research, the amount of, I'm not even your time, but your time, you're always working at a loss. You're never going to gain all that back, man.
I disagree 100%. We sell a lot of games. If we don't have a game that sells 20 to 30,000 copies, we made a mistake.
Seriously.
Our Stellaris right now on CrowdX, I think we're at 2.9 million. So, when we come out with a new game, we just put it out, and in 2 weeks, a war game like that, if we're not making 200,000 on that in return, something's wrong. So from that standpoint, I disagree, because we are going with a little different model than other companies. And we're going outside of the market a lot also. I mean, a lot of our sales that we're concentrating on also, like what we did with Freedom, the Underground Railroad, we're working now with Indian
Which is
Nation.
a fabulous game.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the second one in that type of series, we're now looking at the Native Americans, the Shawnee Cherokee type of the genocide that went on there during the American Revolutionary War up to the 1800s. And we're really trying to bring this into a system in which we can really show what they went through. And that's taking a lot of studying also. So I've been reading books and books, but I've been very lucky, because that is a very passionate audience. And also there's so many incredible historians in that area, native historians, that are signing up with us to help us really portray and get it right. One of the problems, one of the design criterias are, big push right now is that to tell a type of history needs to be told by the people or the descendants of the people. And I agree in that wholeheartedly, because it's very hard for myself to put myself in a position of people went through this and are still living with the results of this. So that's why we have to bring in so many outside people so that we can increase our empathy in the correct directions about things that we would not even come into like my psyche or even my realm of understanding until it's explained to me. And then I'm like, son of God, I never thought of it that way.
No, you must be taking shots politically for sure.
No, because we try to stay very professional online. I never talk politics online. Nobody knows who I vote for.
But what about the schools that you sell these games to, man? Like Freedom. What you know? What I'm going to ask you something, Uwe. What part of the states is Freedom sold in schools at?
Our biggest selling is East, Midwest, and West Coast. We don't sell that many down south, but I think that's because down south there's still not as much of a culture of board game playing as in the Midwest, the Northeast, and the West Coast. So we're seeing more and more community centers and teachers bring the games into the classrooms, not only in public schools, but in Montessorian type schools, homeschooling, all kinds of things like that. And a thing that is and I've said this over and over again, and it's politically incorrect to say it this way, but you can take some stupid white cracker kid who comes from a very prejudicial white family, who's hears very opinionated comments at home about a minority group, and they're supposed to go to school, and the teacher say, "Oh, it's incorrect to think that way. Don't think that way." And you think they're going to change their mind? No. But if you can start getting them to play games, to interact with these things, to learn about it, and you're playing a game where you're playing that other aspect, and you indoctrinate them through the gameplay and trying to win. You win by taking on this opinion, this role. Subconsciously, this is a very, very powerful, and I don't know the correct political way to say it, but it's a way to indoctrinate them into a way of inclusion and really changing their core belief system. And so board game playing where you're taking on a role and you want to win, and you're taking on this role to win, it's going to impart into you a little bit. So if you think of a nice way for me to say that, let me know. and I'd love to be able to say it, but it's simple. Other people would say, yes, you're making the players aware of the others and learning to take an empathy.
Empathy, yeah.
I call it, from our standpoint, we're designing this game for them to get that, which is indoctrination. It is teaching indoctrination in a good way.
I was going to make a joke, but I'm not.
You'd get in trouble. But let's face it, you're going to be in trouble anyway.
But you know, Uwe. Again, I mean, I've known you for a while, and I keep talking stuff that you're pretty risque in your ideas, and you're pretty confident in your ideas, and you go right ahead and you plow through it. And I still haven't played Freedom because it really just that whole aura, it's just, for lack of a better word, icky.
To me, that shows an internal either insecurity or internal fear of something.
Yes, of course. Fear.
And I don't understand what that fear. I'm not a psychologist.
I'm going to tell you what that fear is. I'm going to tell you is because if I see some son of a bitch being prejudiced, this and this and that, I'm the fight guy. I'm not the flight guy. So I'm going to get my head kicked in. And that's why I don't want to. It's like I hate that. I hate it.
Yeah, but you're playing the abolitionist causes, and what the important part of the game is, and I think what we try to put into that especially, is to show that what has been going on now for over 150 years with the abolitionist movement, with all the human rights and laws that were passed in the mid to late 19th century, so 1880s, 1890s, and how these things really have not come to fruition till today. It's taken over 100 years. So if you can go back and you can see the history, the people who did it, the causes, what they did, that is everything. Knowing your history, knowing the history of what happened, I think is just as important as, well, this is how we feel right now. Because you have to see all the people who build this up to this stage, what they went through, who they were, what they believed in, what they did. And that's where games like this or reading about these topics, I think, are invaluable. Just what you see in the news or read on the internet nowadays.
You know, I will tell you that I learned more about the Underground Railroad in my first playthrough of Freedom than I did from K to bachelor's degree in American school system. So
again, with all due respect, Uwe,
which is not to say it's not a challenging game to approach.
Don't we know that history? I mean, me as a Canadian, I know that history.
They don't teach us that stuff.
What do you know about it?
Okay, I was going to ask you, do I know about it, Uwe?
Yeah, what do you know about it? I mean, what happened in the 1850s? What happened politically? What was going on really?
Oh, okay, no,
to bring
I don't
on
know that.
in the abolitionist cause and bring on the Revolutionary War. What do you know? Oh, it was fighting for slavery, against slavery. It was so much more. What people don't even believe is that the abolitionist cause was a northern movement, wasn't it?
Not entirely.
But don't say anything. I'm trying to get from Dan.
I have no idea. I'm Canadian.
He's Canadian.
Well, where was it? Who was anti-slavery, the North or the South?
Well, anti-slavery supposedly was the North.
It was a humanist evangelical movement in the South and the North. And you had more money being raised against slavery coming from the South in the early of the 1800s than came from the North, because you have to realize the North was making all the money in the slave trading in Rhode Island, New York. They were making big bucks on it. So when you're playing this game, you're finding out all of a sudden, wait a minute, I'm getting my money raising funds for the Underground Railroad in the South. So you need to play the game to give you, because what was taught to you and whitewashed to you in school, it was same like the Native Americans, the Native people in Canada. What was whitewashed through the 50s and 60s and what's coming now to the forefront.
So Uwe, what makes you so learned?
Well, I feel very passionate about this because you have to realize I grew up in Venezuela and Puerto Rico and all that. I grew up in cultures where I was the 5%. So I became very, very aware of this when I moved to America as a teen, where I didn't know prejudice till I got to America. And then I was slammed in the face, you know, and it was reversed because I had no prejudicial hints, because you cannot be prejudiced when you're 5%.
Yeah,
in a country that's, you know, and I went to public schools there. All my friends were you know, Latino or Puerto Riqueño. I mean, you know, we grew up singing En Mi Viejo San Juan and felt it in our guts just as much as, you know, because I grew up there. My brother was born there. So I come to America and I was slapped in the face, not with the Latinos and how they interacted with me, because they felt threatened by a guy, you know, a gringo coming up and speaking Spanish, and, you know, I was, hey, ¿cómo estás? You know, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, whoa, you know.
Now, sorry, Artie, I'm hyperactive.
It's all good. You're asking good questions.
Well, Duce, it's very important to try to get, and I always try to look at the empathy. Like when we talk about the Taliban or the evilness of the Mujahideen and all that, we say that because they are our adversaries in our wars there. But what do people really know about them? What do they really know about their goals? What do they really know who they are?
It's what we learned from Facebook.
It's what we've been indoctrinated by the news and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but in order for us to understand, find any type of peace, we have to understand our adversary.
Yes, of course.
And the only way you can understand them well and be effective is to try to put as much empathy into their viewpoint. in order to see what is making them feel the way they are. Why are they fighting? Why are they doing this? Why? And if you can put yourself in their position as much as you can, then you can understand them, and then you can know how to counter them, hopefully diplomatically, and if not, then militarily.
Well, how does that work militarily in your game, that empathy, in your new game, France?
Well, in France, well, listen, we have Frenchmen designing it. You have to have empathy, because you have to understand that the French, you know, the Germans rolled over, and it's the only good cause that the Poles can say. It took longer for the Germans to take over Poland than France. And it is, and I get that all the time, you know, oh, what you did for us, but, you know, look what happened to France. But France, you have to take the empathy of what they were going through and seeing what their constraints were, their lack of communication, their leadership role. And then, of course, the German propaganda was very, very effective. You know, the Germans did not, if someone surrendered, mow people down. They actually, in many cases, gave parole, said, here, we'll let you go, be good. And that spread the word around. So you have to look at everything from the perspective of what it looks like from the other side instead of what we're usually spoon-fed by the victor of that situation. And especially from being German, you know, where the Germans, and they lost the war, the atrocities that happened, not only in Germany, but what the Russians did to their people, what the British did in the Middle East to many people, what the Japanese did. I mean, there are atrocities everywhere, and we really need to get the empathy of that.
Now, why didn't you say American atrocities?
Oh, that's one of the main things of our upcoming Korean War.
Nice.
For example, if we would now, with MacArthur, if we would, because atoms bombs and the atomic bombs and using that did not have the same negative connotation as nowadays. If he would have been able to, on the northern border with China, drop nuclear weapons, you then have to look at what is the non-military, the social economic reaction of this going to be. Because how are the Japanese then going to react to that? Because all our logistics were coming through Japan. And if you think that if we would have started laying down nuclear or atomic bombs in Korean War at that time, we would have had very difficult times worldwide from not only the Japanese standpoint, but other cultures around the world. And it would have changed our history going forward from there. It would have been we would have lost a lot of what we won in World War II.
Bloody hell. So are you saying
And it would have been MacArthur's fault.
It would have been MacArthur's fault?
Yes.
I don't think so, because a lot of the military was very, very pro the nuclear option.
That's true.
Well, yeah.
It's not like MacArthur was the only one advocating for that kind of thing.
Right.
Who was
and you know,
president then?
it took a lot of people when he was taken out. I mean, I've been negatively biased against MacArthur in many of his dealings, and luckily when they pulled him out, things started going somewhat in the right direction. But you look even at the South Korea. I mean, we paint the North Koreans and the Korean War as evil. Hell, what the South Koreans did to their own people, atrocious.
See, I never knew that. Nobody
teaches that. It was, they were, whoever did not, when they did not agree with the leadership, it was what they did. Read, I've got some very good books I can send you, and I've been reading like crazy because of our When Whales Fight game that has been almost ready to go out, but we want to put more of these lock and keys in of your decisions during the campaign and how those will ripple forward and affect the game in the future. Not one of these like you pull a card and go, oh, this happens, I do it, and it disappears. I'm trying to bring in more of what we're doing with the Stellaris in our new solo campaign, that if you decide to do this, it will affect everything else that happens in the future of that game. So that game was ready 2 years ago, but because of this lock and key type of system that we're really developing, started with Agents of Mayhem and now the Stellaris in our solar system, I've really pushed it off because, again, to me, we make more money. We lose money not publishing a game. But for me, I'd rather put out really good games because then they stay evergreen longer. So the sales go longer. You know, we've talked before. The average life of a game is only 3 to 5 weeks nowadays. And then it just boom, high, and then it boom.
So what Academy is
that's
Academy
how long it takes us to set up Case Blue.
I'm sorry?
That's how long it takes us to set up Case Blue.
So Uva, you're saying Academy Games is putting out a Korea game?
Yeah, When Whales Fight. We've talked about it. It's been ready for, it was finalized about 2 years ago. And then it's by Brian Hansen Asklev from Denmark. And phenomenal, great guy, been working with us. And he did an incredible job with the game and the research. And now we're working together where I'm trying to bring in this lock and key and just give a little more depth. Because the game originally was designed, Robert Zach and I put out, of course, when the Eagle, Strike of the Eagle. It did not do as well as it could have. It was one of our earlier games, and it was the Soviet-Polish War of 1919, 1920. Woo! You know, who gets excited about that?
Well, there's a few games on that topic, but it's a niche topic.
Exactly.
Well,
So-
I mean, these small topics are coming up now. Pendragon. Look at Volko's games, man. Like, what's he gonna pull out next? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm happy to see games on treated topics, actually. So yes. I have not heard anything about this Korea game. Is this like a strategic level game? Is it a tactical game?
Well, Strike of the Eagle is probably one of my favorite games we've ever put out. It is just a phenomenal game. It's quick playing. You can teach someone in 5 minutes, and there's very little downtime, and it's full campaign.
Well, what about the Korea game?
The Korea game is going to be the same system.
A strike of the Eagle.
Yeah, Strike of the Eagle. It's our Fog of War series. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll be second edition, though.
And you know what? Don't feel bad about taking your time and making. Look, Bruno Sinigalio, 7 years. Shelby Foote, 10 years to make his
7 years. It's more. He was working on that for more than 7. He's been working on that for good 20 plus.
Excuse me, I got my information wrong.
Well, and the problem isn't that we're working on it constantly that way. It's because we're working on all these other games, and then we find these beautiful design. Design of board games is just skyrocketing, and also with AI, and also with what we're doing with our lock and keys and our Ripple, what we call our Radiant storylines, like what Gunta's now with the Stellaris calling Infinite Legacy, meaning it's not a legacy game where you're tearing cards in half, etc. It is legacy in that any action you're taking will ripple forward and change everything you do in the future.
But what do you call that legacy game?
That's how we're defining a legacy is your decision will change the game from then forward.
Right.
But you're not doing it through destroying stuff. You're doing it through this lock and key mechanisms that we're developing.
You mean you're not ruining the components?
Yeah, I hate that. Even though I'm a great Gloomhaven fan, and every time we just bought the new Gloomhaven, the Lion, what's it called again? But, right away I buy it and the sticker set, so I don't have to destroy stuff.
Yeah, I'm very leery of that personally. I'm like, wait, what if I want to play it again?
Yeah, I said I never want to play Gloomhaven twice, but then I started with another group, and we're starting now another one with another group.
Well, so Gloomhaven, at least there's so much stuff in it that you might never need to play the exact same thing again. So there's like 75 pounds of material in that box.
Man, it's really, really incredible the amount of research you do, Uva. Because I know you more than anybody else in terms of designers and information. That's a lot of research, man. A lot. God, you gotta love it. It's not a money question, that's for sure. Even for you, it's not a money question.
Well, it is a money question because I'm here to make money. I don't do this I do it because I love doing it, but I do it to make money. Well, you're a businessman, I guess. A lot of companies, they pump out games. But they're lucky if they sell 5,000 copies. So,
well, they have volume, eh?
Pardon me?
Yeah,
They
maybe.
got volume. They got many volumes. So
Many
they probably
games
make their money
where
on
they
that.
don't sell many, and it brings it about. But for us, it's better to have higher sales that we have to print every year, because then we don't have additional work. Well, supposedly not. We're just reprinting one small step. You know, the space race between Russia and Germany and America.
You're reprinting that.
Yeah, we're reprinting it, and I spent the last 2-3 weeks with Jim Schoch and Doug Click and the guys, just editing and cleaning up the rules and tightening stuff up again. And I thought it would only take me an hour, and it's taken up 2.5 weeks of my time.
So the developers, when you research a game and you want to design a game, who's the developers?
It depends what type of game, and if it's something that an outside person came to us with one of our series, but we concentrate on series of games. I don't want to. Sorry, I dropped some of my weedy plants here. I don't want to be the expert in everything. You know, we have guys who just have passions in certain type of historical context. We just want to work with them, make sure that the game engine's really tight.
And do you agree or disagree with the designer being the developer?
Developing of what?
Of his design. Let's say you're designing a game, you develop your own game. Basically, you are just you're everything. You're judge and jury of your own game. Don't
development of what? Development of the game engine, of the production, of the artwork. What are you talking about?
Jesus, look at that, huh? You throw you curveballs at me, huh?
No. It's many different aspects, you know.
Okay, so I'm just thinking design, the design of the game, the concept.
I think maybe what Dan's trying to get to is if you are designing a game, whether you're starting with the initial engine or with a more or less fully fleshed out concept and then working from there, how important is it to have other voices involved in that process?
Thank you.
To catch, blind sight that you might have.
It's critical. It's critical. We've had some incredible designers that we're working with right now, and they've designed quite a few games. They're very successful, but myself included, getting the synergy of other very successful designers, getting together, getting the synergy, the talking, ideas, the development is more important. I think one of the key important things, because everybody is a designer in their head. And it's easy to come up with a concept. And it's easy to come up with a good game. Good games no longer sell. Good games no longer sell, because when 8,000 new games hit the market every year, a good game is not going to sell to make everybody money. It's got to be an exemplary game nowadays. Exemplary games stick around and people talk about, and they drive sales. So I think, myself included, every game that I design, I put out there. I put it in my Proof HQ. I've got like 20 people into that. I have other designers working with us, getting ideas, throwing ideas back and forth. That stimulates that synergy stimulates so much thoughts, because you get into a certain type of groove. And it's very important to someone to slap you across the face and go, hey, or look over that way. You know, the track is turning in a circle. So I think it's very critical to do that. Now, we have our designers work from us from front to end. We're very transparent. We do everything on teamwork. Every single part of a project is given a task in Teamworks. It's in our Gantt charts. Everybody can see who has to do what's waiting on what. That keeps our artists on top of it. Not like an artist go, oh, I'll get it to you, and then they never get it to you, because everybody sees the time ticking down. Everybody sees who's dependent on that artist one bit, and if they don't get it done, everybody knows it. And the artist knows that everybody knows it. And if the artist can't stay on track with it, then, there's every other day talks being given. So
So Uwe, is this your model, or is this a model that all game companies do?
I think we're one of the few. It's a standard engineering model, a project management model. You know, a teamwork. Everything is task driven. All reviews are done online for the whole team, depending on what siloed groups are supposed to participate on it. And this is even more important for us when we're working with like a company like Paradox Interactive, which is a huge software company. That system is very, very powerful because it allows them to, if they want, to participate, see what's going on, see every single piece of artwork that comes on, every file that's uploaded is all documented in a teamwork type of environment. I think most game companies don't do that, but most game companies aren't here for the long term and to make money. We're in a business that if you run it right and you have good high EBITDAs, very good input for every dollar you're spending, it's critical for the survival of the company.
That's a lot of pressure, man.
For whom? For the
for your employees.
We have people who thrive on that, and the people can't take that. We don't really put them in the situation where it should hurt them. Every employee, if we can see that it's not their thing, it's not their shtick, they can't handle the pressure or the number of projects, then we pull them back from that or we let them go.
I mean, optimally, that kind of model is communicating to everybody involved what the expectations are, what they need to do to make the project come off at the end, right? So that's the way it's supposed to work.
And it keeps us from overloading any single person. So actually, Dan, a system like that keeps it from 3 different areas of the company hitting one person up saying, oh, I need this, and I need this, and why can't you do it? And that puts that person on a very difficult position, very defensive. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen because these are the projects, this is what's going on. He doesn't have time till then. And your priority for this part of this person's time is not there.
It makes me think of a video game company like Ubisoft. They all have their departments, and there's a deadline, and that's it.
Well, this is pretty. I mean, this kind of thing is very standard business model outside the gaming business, right?
Yeah, and I think it's changing. It's going to become the gaming industry more and more. It has to become more prevalent.
Wow, that's a lot of information, Uwe.
Well, you know what? You look at some of these companies who are just so good at what they're doing, and some of these companies are very good and very prolific, but it's because the central person, the founder of the company or the main designer, burns their candle on both ends.
So how do you not do that, Uwe? How are you not a control freak?
I'm not a control freak.
I know. How are you not?
Because I'm very confident in my systems and we have good people, and you just do it. I mean, this is my 8th business. I've made a lot of money in all my old businesses, and it's like, I did this to retire 12 years ago, and that lasted, 3 months before Conflict of Heroes and how successful it was. But, I've got my interstate Airstream. Tomorrow we're hopping in that, going down to Nashville, Tennessee. Going to hang out, go to the Grand Ole Opry with some friends. Hang out. I've got everything. I've got 2 big monitors in my Airstream. It's an interstate. It's on a Mercedes Sprinter chassis, and my front seat, my driver's seat turns around. I've got monitors right there. Hook in, get some good work done. My wife's the same way.
This is the actual Dr. Evil mobile.
Mobile Dr. Evil.
Uwe, you wear so many hats. Artie, do you know that this guy's a musician?
Not sure I knew that. No,
he's like he hears, man. I was doing some stuff, and I sent it to him, whatever, and he says, "I like the music, Dan, and I love those 7s." And I'm like, "What the hell?" And he plays violin, barbershop quartet, man.
I had to push the barbershop off. It's we were practicing like crazy, but because of some family, issues, sicknesses going on, I had to push it off for a few months. But
You know, I can't help but say, but you're a beautiful man. You know that? When I grow up, I want to be just like you, man.
You know what, Dan Duce? What you can say that because you're one of the most incredible composers and composition, everything. Your skills and everything are beyond the skills that I have percentage-wise of people who are better than me.
I wasn't asking for that. I wasn't asking for you telling me all this.
Well, no, because
nobody likes it, so keep doing it.
Ping pong paddling it
Please
back.
continue.
You know? You're throwing it at me, but it's everyone here in this conversation is you putting out this podcast, doing everything with your music and everything. I don't know, Herr Mengele, how much what you're into as much. I've known Duce much better.
The guy's an animal.
What's that?
He's a grognard. You can't mess with this guy.
I don't know about that.
So anyway, but you know, it's a lot of fun. You have to have fun. You know, I on Sunday, I spent 4.5 hours in the rain, reffing 2 college games. You know, or college age, off-season FIFA tournament games. 4.5 hours in the rain, sprinting with these maniacs. You know, 20 and 21-year-old guys. They run so much faster than when I was 20 and 21.
Can I ask how old you are, Uwe?
I'm 57. I'm going to be 58.
God, you're beautiful.
Thank God there's someone older than me.
I'm 57. Look at the difference.
I'm aware.
Well, no, it's right now, you know, I spend a lot of my time bulking up right now and losing. I have to work hard because I have to lose another 10 pounds for the tournament season and all.
Oh, yeah, I can see it over here, Uwe. I can see it right there, the 10 pounds.
10 pounds. Isn't that adorable?
Well, look, we've passed our hour. I'm sure I could listen to you going on and on, but you know, Uwe, it's an hour. Huh?
Well, it's an honor. Thank you so much for talking. And I'm sorry if we got off topic a little, but
actually, no, it was
no. When you came in, that's when we got on topic.
Yeah. Uwe, thank you so much, man.
Thank you for your time. And if anybody's down in Nashville, give me a holler and we'll play some good games. I just got one of my favorite games is Gizmos. I don't know if you've ever played that. You're building an engine and pulling marbles and making them the most efficient to give you the best output. Great game. Highly recommend it. And playing games like that gives me ideas for war games.
I'm sure that's true, actually. Maybe that's a topic for next time.
So, Uwe.
Yes.
Auf Wiedersehen and danke.
Yeah.
And the same to you, Artie.
All right, everybody have a great night.
I'm gonna do the famous outro. Do I have one?
I don't know. Do you have one?
No, I don't.
Viele Grüße aus Ohio here, jeder.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, people. I'm just gonna cut it like that. Artie, I'm just gonna kill it.
Okay.
Uwe, I'm gonna kill it. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
Ciao.
Great night.